Legio I Adiutrix was born in chaos, raised by Emperor Nero in AD 68 from the ranks of Roman Marines. The legion's early history is marked by an interesting moment during the Year of the Four Emperors. When Galba took power in AD 68, he initially refused to grant the standard of the legion. But shortly before his death, he relented and awarded them the Eagle Standard, solidifying their status. The legion then sided with Otho, yet they were defeated at the First Battle of Bedriacum in AD 69. The Adiutrix's most notable moment came when they rallied behind Vespasian during the same turbulent year, eventually emerging victorious and solidifying their loyalty to the new emperor. The legion was also key in suppressing the Batavian revolt. Under Domitian, they clashed fiercely with the Chatti. Under Trajan, they carved a bloody path through Dacia and Parthia, with notable contributions at the Battle of Tapae. As the Marcomannic Wars raged, they stood firm under Marcus Aurelius, and with Lucius Verus, they marched deep into Parthian lands. Through fire and blood, Legio I Adiutrix earned its title, Pia Fidelis, loyal and faithful. No matter the foe or the odds, they held the line. Many years had passed since their creation. Now, another storm looms over the empire, the reign of the Five Emperors. And once again, the loyalty and faithfulness of Legio I Adiutrix will be tested there. On the 1st of January, AD 193, a former commander of Legio I Adiutrix, Publius Helvius Pertinax, ascended to the Roman throne. His reign, however, was short-lived, lasting only 87 days and marked by instability. On the 28th of March, 193, while at his palace, Pertinax was confronted by a contingent of Praetorian guards, approximately 300 according to the Historia Augusta, though Cassius Dio reports the number as closer to 200. Ancient sources suggest the guards were enraged after receiving only half of the pay they had been promised. The palace guards and officials on duty offered no resistance as the soldiers forced their way inside. Pertinax sent Quintus Aemilius Latus, the Praetorian prefect, to meet them. However, Latus defected to the insurgents, abandoning the emperor. Although advised to flee, Pertinax chose instead to face the soldiers and attempted to reason with them. He nearly succeeded in calming the mob, but was ultimately struck down by one of the guards. Didius Julianus rose to power after serving as proconsul of Africa, eventually seizing the imperial throne following the assassination of Pertinax. However, his accession was not the result of legitimate succession, but rather a controversial bid for power, reportedly secured through bribery during an auction of the imperial office by the Praetorian Guard. This act provoked widespread outrage across the empire, particularly among the legions. Legio I Adiutrix, whose former commander had been Pertinax, was especially enraged by the apparent complicity of the Praetorian Guard in his murder. In response, the legion pledged its support to Lucius Septimius Severus, the governor of Pannonia Superior, who now laid claim to the throne. Other legions stationed in the region, Legio X Gemina, Legio XIV Gemina Martia Victrix, and Legio II Adiutrix, also declared their allegiance to Severus. With this formidable force behind him, Severus began his march on Rome to confront Julianus. Severus reached the capital ahead of any significant resistance, and on the 1st of June, 193, he ordered the execution of Didius Julianus, just 2 months after the death of Pertinax, avenging the fallen emperor and securing his own position as ruler. Legio I Adiutrix did not return to the Danube frontier immediately after the fall of Didius Julianus. Instead, it was redeployed in the campaign against Pescennius Niger, the former governor of Syria, who had also proclaimed himself emperor in the wake of Pertinax's death. Once again, Legio I Adiutrix was at the forefront, leading the charge against this rival claimant. The legion crossed into Asia Minor and engaged Niger's forces there as part of Septimius Severus's Eastern campaign. The civil war ultimately culminated in AD 194 with a decisive battle near the city of Issus, where Niger was defeated and killed, solidifying Severus's control over the eastern provinces and further securing his claim to the imperial throne. However, the civil war was far from over. During his campaign against Pescennius Niger, Septimius Severus had forged a temporary alliance with Clodius Albinus, a powerful rival who controlled Britannia. Although they were political enemies, Severus granted Albinus the title of Caesar as part of a strategic agreement, effectively recognizing him as his junior partner in rule. In return, Albinus was given administrative authority over Gaul and Spain. This arrangement held for a time, but in the autumn of AD 196, Albinus learned that Severus had elevated his own son, Caracalla, to the title of Caesar, an unmistakable signal that Severus no longer considered Albinus his heir. The Senate, now fully aligned with Severus, formally declared Albinus an enemy of the state. With his political survival at stake, Albinus acted swiftly. He proclaimed himself emperor under the full imperial title Imperator Caesar Decimus Clodius Septimius Albinus Augustus. Mobilizing the legions of Britannia, he crossed the Channel into Gaul, bringing a significant portion of the British garrison with him. Albinus achieved an early success by defeating Severus's legate, Virius Lupus, and seized control of the military infrastructure in Gaul. He established his headquarters at Lugdunum. However, despite his gains, Albinus was unable to secure the support of the crucial Rhine legions, weakening his strategic position in the conflict to come. On the 19th of February of AD 197, Clodius Albinus confronted the forces of Septimius Severus at the Battle of Lugdunum, a confrontation that proved to be one of the largest and most decisive battles of the Roman civil wars. Although exact troop numbers and details of the engagement remain uncertain, it is widely believed that Legio I Adiutrix participated in the battle, continuing its unwavering support for Severus. Both armies were reportedly well matched in size and strength, making the encounter particularly fierce and prolonged. Unlike most battles of the period, which typically lasted only a few hours, this engagement stretched over 2 days, highlighting the intensity of the struggle. The battle saw multiple shifts in momentum, with neither side able to secure a lasting advantage early on. However, Severus ultimately gained the upper hand, likely due to his superiority in cavalry, which allowed him to break Albinus's lines in the final phase of combat. Albinus's forces, exhausted and overwhelmed, were decisively defeated. With Albinus's death, the civil war came to a close, and Severus emerged as the uncontested ruler of the Roman Empire. In recognition of the steadfast loyalty shown by Legio I Adiutrix throughout the conflict, Severus issued a series of commemorative coins bearing the name of the legion, an imperial honor that reflected both their valor and political importance. In AD 195, Legio I Adiutrix participated in a renewed Roman campaign into Mesopotamia, launched under Emperor Septimius Severus. During this campaign, Roman forces successfully occupied major cities, including Seleucia and Babylon. In early 197, Severus departed from Rome, setting out for the east, and the loyal Legio I Adiutrix once again followed him. He embarked at Brundisium and likely disembarked at Aegae in Cilicia, continuing overland to Syria. From there, Severus swiftly gathered his forces and crossed the Euphrates River, advancing into Mesopotamian territory. He made his way to Nisibis, a strategic frontier city that had narrowly avoided falling to the Parthians thanks to the efforts of his general Julius Latus. Following this, Severus returned to Syria to prepare for a more ambitious campaign. In the following year, Severus launched a second and more successful invasion of the Parthian Empire, reportedly as retribution for Parthian support of his former rival, Pescennius Niger. Roman legions, including Legio I Adiutrix, successfully sacked Ctesiphon, the royal capital of the Parthian Empire, and Severus annexed the northern half of Mesopotamia into Roman control. In recognition of this victory, he adopted the honorific title Parthicus Maximus, following in the footsteps of Emperor Trajan. However, like Trajan before him, Severus failed to capture the fortified city of Hatra, despite launching 2 protracted sieges. The stronghold's formidable defenses and fierce resistance prevented its fall, marking one of the few setbacks in an otherwise triumphant campaign. In AD 208, under the command of Legate Cornelius Valens, Legio I Adiutrix was deployed to Britain, likely participating in military operations against local tribes resisting Roman rule. The legion may also have been involved in the Parthian campaign of Emperor Caracalla between AD 215 and 217, although definitive records of its participation remain uncertain. The legion reappears in historical accounts during the reign of Emperor Maximinus Thrax. In the year 237, it took part in campaigns against the Dacians, followed by involvement in the civil wars of 238 and the siege of Aquileia in northern Italy. After the assassination of Maximinus and the brief joint reigns of Pupienus and Albinus, Gordian III ascended to the throne. Legio I Adiutrix supported Gordian III during his Persian campaign in the year 244. However, on the 20th of February of the year 244, the young emperor was killed near Zytha, a city on the Euphrates River, under murky circumstances. He was succeeded by Philip the Arab. Following these events, the historical record becomes sparse. At some point in the 3rd century, the legion was awarded the honorific titles Pia Fidelis bis and Constans, likely in recognition of its consistent service during times of crisis. By the early 5th century, according to the Notitia Dignitatum, Legio I Adiutrix was still stationed at Brigetio along the Danube frontier. By this time, the legion had become part of the border army and was placed under the command of the dux of the province of Littoral Valeria, continuing its role in the defense of Rome's increasingly vulnerable frontiers. Through shifting emperors and civil war, the legion endured, not for glory, but for Rome.